Well, hello everyone, and you're participating in the 6-week webinar on Napoleon Hill's classic bestseller, Think and Grow Rich. So we're on week number 3. My name is Steve Lundy, and I'll be hosting the call tonight. I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar. Let's go ahead and take a look at tonight's call. Okay, so this is going to be a great webinar. We're going to continue with the format of having an open line discussion. So everyone on the call, feel free to hop in when I give you the cue, and also you can stop me if there's questions as we go along. This is pretty free flowing and open forum. One of the benefits of that particular format is the sharing of people's perspectives on the material, and I'm a firm believer that you can't hear enough different perspectives. One of the things that we get locked into is our own view of the world, and hearing other people's view with an open mind and without judgment is a real super way to expand your knowledge and expand your experience of the world. So before we get started, I'd just like to take a second to talk about last week's homework, and not so much about the homework, but about the importance of completing the homework and also participating in the Facebook page that I've set up. Posting comments and questions, and really it goes back to the sharing of your ideas and the sharing of other people's, taking in the other people's ideas and sort of expanding your horizons a little bit. So the page is there. If you have any questions during the week, I check it often, and we'll answer those questions as we go along. As well, some of the other participants on the call, who have been through my courses before and are well versed in the material. They can post answers to questions as well, or their thoughts on them. So that's there. So let's enough of that. Let's have a quick look at what we did last week, and then what we can do is let me just catch up on the slides here. There's the gratuitous host shot. So we'll have a look at a little bit of a review of what we did last week. And then what I'll do is I'll talk about the remainder of the call tonight. What we'll be talking about, what tonight's call will look like. So last week we covered the chapter on desire. We spoke about definiteness of purpose and desire. Then we spoke about the concept of burning our ships, which is the story that Hill goes into in that book is one of my favorite stories in the book. We also covered the 6 practical steps that can be used to, as Hill states, transmute your desires into their financial equivalent. And then finally, we spoke about the difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. We then moved into the chapter on faith. And we were, that's where we started to discuss the definition of faith, and we'll be talking quite a bit more about faith and its role in manifesting, the things that you desire in this world. So from there, we reviewed and discussed the self-confidence formula. It's point 5 of that formula that is so powerful, and that's the one that I like to read at the end of each of the remaining, or I'm suggesting that we read at the end of each of the remaining webinars. So I'd like to encourage everyone as well to continue reading that outside of the call, and be present to what starts to show up in your life as a result of focusing on that point, but all the points in that formula. And we finished the evening with a conversation that revolved around how faith and gratitude lend themselves to one another. So it was a lot of material to cover. I think we also reviewed and discussed the self-confidence. That's the self-confidence formula that I was talking about there. Okay, so let's get into what we're going to be covering this week. We're going to start by looking at chapter 4 on autosuggestion, and we'll start off by clearly defining what autosuggestion is and how it works. And this is just like building blocks where you place one on top of the other, because with the knowledge of autosuggestion in your pocket, we'll talk about how you can work with it to improve your results. Okay. We'll then move on to chapter 6, which is the chapter on imagination. And in this chapter, Hill writes for the first time in the book about the blending of intellectual faculties. As well, we'll discuss the critical combination of imagination and action. And in this chapter, Hill discusses two types of imagination. He talks about synthetic, not too much about synthetic, but he does talk about synthetic imagination and creative imagination. But for the purposes of our discussion, we're going to focus entirely on creative imagination. More specifically, we'll discuss how the creative imagination can be effectively blended with your intellectual faculty of intuition. And finally, we'll end the evening by discussing the most common mistake that people typically make when using their imagination. And that's about it. That's a lot to cover. So we should probably just go ahead and get started then. So let's begin with autosuggestion. And let's do that by gaining an understanding of what it really is. So to do this, let's flip over, as you can see on the screen, page 54, where it says let me just pop that back on. Sorry about that. There we go. So it says here, there are no limits to the mind except those we acknowledge. Both poverty and riches are the offspring of thought, the medium for influencing the subconscious mind, the third step towards riches. So I'm just having a little problem with my mouse here. Let me pop that back up for you. I know you don't have the book in front of you, son, so I'll try and keep this up as long as I'm reading here. So it says, it describes autosuggestion. Autosuggestion is a term that applies to all suggestions and all self-administered stimuli, which reaches one's mind through the five senses. Stated in another way, autosuggestion is self-suggestion. It's the agency of communication between that part of the mind where conscious thought takes place and that which serves as the seat of action for the subconscious mind. So there are three ways of gaining control over our mind, and or someone else's mind. And number one is agreement, and that's when you get people to say yes. And once you get them starting to say yes, they'll have a hard time saying no. For example, successful salespeople are taught this, and they understand and apply this. And we've been subject to this every time we walk into a car dealership. They're trained to ask questions that they know their clients are going to say yes to. Questions like, would you agree with this, Mr. Customer? Or that silver car would look great in your driveway, wouldn't it? Or wouldn't it be great to watch the World Junior Hockey Championship game on that big screen TV at your lazy boy with your buddies? The salesperson knows, the answer to these questions is going to be yes before they even ask. And they know that if they get enough yeses from their customer, when they finally do ask for the sale, the customer is already been conditioned to say yes and will actually have a difficult time saying no. So the second way is to gain conscious control over the second way to gain conscious control over the mind is a shock. And this usually happens as a result of a negative experience. Shock creates an immediate, sharp awareness to the situation. So an example of this, maybe I think we've all done this. You're driving down the road thinking about your next appointment or your destination or the presentation you have to do for your boss, and all of a sudden that hot coffee that you're carrying between your legs spills onto your thighs. This kind of shock usually results in all your conscious attention being instantly shifted to your thighs. This is this shock has created an immediate awareness to the situation, and it's really effectively gained control of your conscious mind. You're not thinking about anything but that hot coffee on your lap. Now, number 3, and the most powerful of the 3, is suggestion. And hypnotherapists use this tool. At first, they'll suggest that that your eyes are getting heavy, and then they'll go on to suggest that your breathing is calm. Then they continue suggesting that you're feeling very relaxed. And what's the reason? What's the reason for this? They do this to remove the conscious mind and gain access to the subconscious mind. And this is very, very, very powerful. If they gain control of your conscious mind, they're able to plant concepts such as an image of a more fit or slimmer you, or the idea that you have never smoked a day in your life, or that you never crave nicotine, or they could even remove childhood memories from this part of your mind, or programming that is holding you back. And large corporations they're very aware of this technology, and it's commonly used in advertisement. I don't know if further south they do this, but an example of this up here would be the cold and flu season. You'll see a flood of advertising announcing that it's cold and flu season. I must have turned my conscious mind over to those ads on TV a few weeks ago, because I was on my back for about four days, and that's how it happens. The seed is planted, and then the action takes place. So then, they continue pushing these ads out onto the TV, and then the next thing you know, at the department store or the pharmacy, you'll see those pop-out advertisements and large displays showcasing cold and flu remedies. Planting seeds that your cold or your bout with the flu is on its way. So that's how that works, and it's very, very powerful. So with autosuggestion, we're really talking about taking control of yourself with self-administered stimuli that you choose. Now, autosuggestion is it's also known as self-talk, which is choosing affirmations or statements for yourself and repeating them continuously. So let's do a little bit of a deeper dive on this, okay? The important thing to realize is that autosuggestion can work either for you or against you, depending on the quality of your thoughts. And this powerful tool is always on. It's just like the 6 intellectual faculties that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and that we were talking a little bit about last week. They're always on, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not. So understand that we give we give ourselves suggestions all day long, usually unconsciously, and these suggestions are not always serving our purpose. For example, how many times do we internally say things like, and I'm guilty of saying this. I don't say it anymore, but I used to say this all the time. I have a terrible memory. Or you'll make a mistake and immediately you'll call yourself stupid, or you'll shake your head and whisper to yourself, "There you go again." When we auto-suggest the same thing often enough, the internal dialogue will sometimes become your external dialogue. For example, how many have heard people say things like, "Oh, I can't do that," or "I'm not good enough," or "That's not the type of person I am"? Well, it doesn't matter if the suggestion is positive or negative, because it's going to work either way. Now remember, we have the ability to, in our conscious mind, to accept, reject, or neglect any idea or suggestion that comes into our conscious awareness. Autosuggestion really requires conscious control and awareness of the thoughts that we're allowing into our awareness. So think about what you really need to think about what you're thinking about. And that's the power of this webinar, I think. It gives us the opportunity to commune on a weekly basis with other people who've made the same decision that we have begin to change the way that we think and to begin to implement the ideas that that Hill teaches in Think and Grow Rich. So let's open up the lines here, and I'm going to ask, can you share any ideas on what we can do to manage or gain control of this self-talk, this monologue that's going on inside of us? Anyone? And you'll have to unmute yourself.
Hi, Steve.
Yes, Dick.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
One of the things that I learned along my journey was to create a greater sense of awareness as the distractions of the day come into play, is to like keep a journal and set the alarm, like have an alarm set, and just do it at random times, okay? And the thing is, and what happens is when the alarm goes off, you're to record your thought process, where you're at that moment. So that's going to teach you an awareness of, like, when, as you're going throughout your day, like your different thought processes, okay, and are you on track with maintaining a sort of a positive mental process, or are you getting caught up with, okay, well, those, like some of the stuff, and basically, like, sweating the small stuff.
Yeah. Recording your thoughts, perfect. A lot of that stuff I find in journaling. Journaling is huge because what it does, because the monologue, the dialogue that you have going on inside, makes sense inside, but sometimes it doesn't make so much sense when you actually get it down on paper. You start to look at it and go, oh my God, that's what I'm thinking, and it really sort of sheds light on on some of the beliefs that you have. It's really, you can't. Yeah, I can't say enough about journaling, from my opinion, and from my experience. So the first step really is that awareness. It's being aware that self-talk is happening. What the internal dialogue or monologue is saying, and the fact that you can choose to alter that dialogue or monologue is critical. Son, did you want to interject? Okay, a couple of the other things that I would suggest as a way of controlling the self-talk or getting a handle on the self-talk is the use of affirmations. Another thing is that you can do is focus on the now, and for many it's called being present. If you're present to your surroundings, you're present to exactly what you're doing at that time, it leaves very little room for that inner dialogue to happen. And if you're consciously trying to stay present, you'll notice when that internal dialogue starts to encroach on what you're trying to do. The other thing to do, and this is similar to journaling, is to talk out loud. You're talking inside your head, speak it out. And it has a lot of the same effects. It has a lot of the same outcomes as journaling. You start to hear the things that you're thinking inside, and when you do that, you have the ability as well to say, you know what, that's not true. No, that's crazy. No, that's not true. And in fact, thank you very much for sharing that, but I choose to think differently than that. So it's almost like an interaction with that subconscious or that internal voice that you've got going on.
Can I just add one more thing to your affirmation, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely.
What I found that helps me a lot is that because like sometimes, depending on how we wake up in the morning, like we can be thinking too much about what's to come instead of where we are. Like you said, at that, like as somebody, I've learned a new term the other day, being a presentologist, being in the moment. So the thing is that, like for instance, like I go to the gym every morning, so I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. So what I do is, and quite often I'm walking to the gym, so when I'm walking, I list 12 things that I'm grateful for, and I find that if I'm distracted by anything negative, then what I'm doing is, especially going to the gym to work out, which takes, like every day, which takes more discipline. So what I do is I find that it helps to set my tone not just for the workout, but for a good part of the day, because it puts me on the it puts my focus and attention on all the things that I've decided to be grateful for.
Perfect. Yeah.
So that's and I just find that if I do it, if I make the intention for that to happen, okay, then the thing is, okay, I find that I can change the course of my day, because you know how sometimes we can wake up in the morning and you stub your toe and the thing is,
Yeah.
excuse me, the alarm goes off and you don't want to get up and need that extra minute of sleep.
Yeah.
Or, like we've had a bad day yesterday and it kind of went through our head throughout the night and we didn't get all the rest we needed. So I just find that just redirecting just helps to change the focus and set the tone for, like the new day that you're in, instead of being part of, as I'm saying, being a presentologist.
That's a good one. I like that. I'm going to use that if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
Yeah. Well, and really what you're talking about, David, is taking conscious control of your thoughts and, bringing those things that you're grateful for into your awareness. And, as you know, when you do that, those are the types of things you start to begin to see more of. It's like, it's like choosing a new car. Once you make your mind up on the car that you want to buy, well, don't they start showing up everywhere you look? You've got that car in your mind. It's in your awareness. It's a big part of you. You're emotional about that car, and most people get emotional about the cars that they're purchasing. So because it's in your awareness, they start to show up. Were they always there? Of course they were always there. You didn't necessarily see them because they weren't in your awareness to the extent that they are. So it's pretty interesting how that works, but that's really what we're talking about here. So have a look at it. Have a look at it this way. The conscious mind gives us the ability to either accept, reject, or neglect ideas or thoughts. The choices we make regarding our our ideas or thoughts are represented or expressed in the subconscious or emotional or feeling part of our mind through the law of vibration. This is autosuggestion at work. It's this feeling or emotional side of our mind that literally controls the vibration or the state that we're in. And vibration, as we know, ultimately controls the action that a person takes, that we all take. And that action produces our results. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And it's really the results that we're looking. Yes, son.
I'm so sorry. I was muted there and I couldn't unmute myself. And if you don't mind, I just wanted to tell you something about what I use often about what seems to be the most interesting part for my clients when I use the train, the thought of the train coming into your brain.
Okay.
I'm a visual person, so I have to picture something.
I do too.
Yeah, so the awareness thing, I use the train, like the train is coming into your brain, and if you want that thought, which is the train, to stop, you can hop on. If you want to hop on, you go ahead and do that, but if you want that thought to leave, you let that train go by. And so, I don't know if that makes sense, but...
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and like you're saying, with vibration, so that train is a vibration coming into that station, right? It's just vibrating. But if you want to continue that thought, which is not always what we want, is you let that go, and you just let that train go out. But if that's something that you want, you hop on and you let that vibration continue onto action.
That's fantastic.
I
love those tools because I am visual as well. And it really gives, and people who are visual will really embrace, that type of tool where they can visualize the thought coming in as something that they know, and choose to allow it to go on its way or jump on. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, we were talking about this process of auto-suggestion. I'm a big process person. So as a visual person, son, I'm very process-oriented, and I like flows and flow charts and all that sort of thing. So, these tools in the slides I find are very helpful. They were very helpful for me when I was putting all this information together. But I find that for visual people, it really helps them out. The end result here of this flow are our results. And, I'm convinced that regardless of the business that you're in, whether, what position in that business, even if you don't own a business, maybe you're a stay-at-home parent, everything comes down to your results. And that's what we're all after, are the results. And that's really, in society, that's really the report card. That's the social report card. That in the end, what are your results? We've been conditioned to look at our results as they relate to our finances, and that's really a huge thing, the thing that most people really turn to when they're looking at your results. But we get results in every area of our lives. We get results in our spiritual world, in our relationships. We get results in the health of our physical bodies, in our personal and professional development, and we certainly, of course, get, as I said, results financially. But when we think about results, here's a question that I think every single one of us should be able to answer, and that is, what is the primary cause of my results? Let me say that again. What is the primary cause of my results? And to answer that question, it's going to be difficult, or it's going to be different depending on who you talk to. If you ask a technician, they're going to talk about product knowledge. If we ask a manager, they'll say teamwork or purpose and vision. If we ask a business owner, they might say advertising and marketing, or maybe even research and development. And I think we say these things because we've been programmed to determine our results by what we do. We define our results by what we've accomplished and not necessarily who we are. And I'm not just talking about the results that we get in our life financially or in your life in terms of business. The question is, what is the primary cause of your results in every aspect of your life? In your health, in your relationships, in your spiritual life, and of course in your financial life. Now, after studying the field of human development and corporate growth for some time now, I've come to the conclusion that the primary cause of our results is attitude. And not now for some this might be a bit of a simplistic answer, and maybe even a little bit disappointing. But think back. If you're anything like me, I've been told my entire life that if I improve my attitude, my results would improve. I had managers that told me the same thing. I'd get better results if my attitude improved. My hockey and my football coaches, they pointed to players with the best attitude as examples of who we should emulate to be more successful. These were usually the leaders as well on the team and the take charge guys. In network marketing, we only need to look at the most successful people to see what effect a good attitude will get you. But what is it? What's this thing we call attitude? Now, do you agree that if we can't clearly define what attitude is, that it would be difficult, if not impossible, to change it or to inspire somebody else to change theirs? If I asked each of you, on this call to define attitude, I think we would come up with a variety of different answers. Maybe I'll just get you to mute yourselves there. Hearing a little bit of background noise might affect the recording. So we're talking about defining what attitude is. And I think we'd come up with a variety of different answers if we asked 10 people on the street. But in my experience, I've found that attitude is basically it's a composite of three elements: our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And it's not just one of these, but it's really all of them combined. Now, autosuggestion is the thinking part that influences the feelings part. And so, autosuggestion plays a major role in that it actually controls your attitude. See, if we let the inside of this circle that you see on the screen represent everything that we're responsible for. A person who has a bad attitude is someone who's living outside of that circle, this circle of responsibility. Now, a person who doesn't take responsibility for the things they think or the feelings they feel or the actions they take is living outside of the circle of responsibility. They're kind of doomed, to constantly say, who's the matter with me? What they're really doing is playing the blame game. They make me so mad, or see what you made me do. If you're going to play life at that level, outside of this circle of responsibility, you're really playing the blame game. You're pointing the finger away from you. I like this saying. It's, a person who allows others to make them glad, sad, or mad has been had. And it's really proper control of our attitude means that we're working within the boundaries of the circle, where we take personal responsibility for our thoughts and our feelings and actions. We don't allow some condition or circumstance, the economy, or what they're serving up on the news channel to control us or our lives. The bad attitude can most likely be attributed to poor autosuggestion, I think, in most people. I was at the ski hill the other day with my son, and we did a few runs in the afternoon. And I wanted to ski all evening, but after a few runs, we planned to come in to warm up, and my son says, "I'm tired and my legs are getting sore. I don't think I want to ski anymore." And I told him, there's something wrong when the old man has the energy to ski all night and the 15-year-old is too tired. Now, I was with him the prior 2 days, and I know, if you're a mother or son, you're a mother, you're probably saying, hey, take it easy on the kid. But I was with him the last couple of days, and he had plenty of rest, the same amount as I had. And in fact, that day I was on the ice coaching for 5 hours in the morning, and he wasn't. So, he was perfectly rested. Now, what my son has developed, he's developed this habit of telling himself how tired he always is, how hard everything is. And his feelings and his actions, his body, has no choice but to line up in that vibration. I suggested that he start telling himself how much energy he has, and then report back. I don't know if he's going to do that, but that's really what we need to do. We need to auto-suggest how we want to be, how we want to feel. We need to understand that attitude has a drastic impact on the results that we get or don't get in our lives, and that we have the ability to shift our attitude through conscious awareness of this power of autosuggestion. The thoughts we choose and the feelings we have from those thoughts and the actions that we act on based on those feelings is really what attitude is. Autosuggestion controls one's attitude. So I'd like to suggest that you engage in the process of thinking about what you're choosing to think about. I wrote an article some time ago. David, I don't know if you may have read the article. I may have sent this out the last time we did this, but it deals specifically with this topic, thinking about what you're thinking about. And it might, I think it'll give a little bit more information, a little bit deeper dive on that. Okay, so before we get you guys get the impression that I'm getting an attitude about this, I think we'll move on to the next chapter on imagination. This chapter. Any questions about autosuggestion? Any comments you guys want to make or ask? I found it was a huge chapter for me. It was, just the content in that chapter alone is worth 5 or 6 read-throughs, But this other one,
Steve,
yeah, go ahead.
I just think it's a constant reminder of that we know that there's self-talk going on. We know that there's the mind chatter or whatever we want to refer to it as, and it's. I think that because of all of the things that go on in our daily lives, especially today, the thing is that we need to bring ourselves back to that conscious awareness of the moment that we're in, and the more we can bring ourselves back to that, and that means the more conscious effort, because, you know, I mean, I've heard a statistic out there that there's like 90% of all people's thinking and actions is all subconscious driven. So that means, okay, that they're just like, you know, they're virtually on autopilot.
Yeah.
So it's just to be able to make a conscious effort, okay, that means that we're actually, you know, redirecting the, you know, the energy that we actually have at our disposal to make it, you know, more useful for ourselves, and you know, which is going to make us more powerful, because if you can live in the moment and be present in that moment, and I think that that's you know, and auto-suggestion is, like I said, it's like, you know, what are we saying to ourselves and how are we saying it? And I don't think that I don't know anybody that I know that could even consider themselves as being a master of that. It's just like, the thing is, okay, like, it's just a conscious, it just has to be a constant effort for all of us, okay, to stay in that moment and to give that moment every ounce of energy that we possibly can. So auto-suggestion, like you said, it's just like, I don't think there's enough nth degree exponential numbers you can give to it to recognize how powerful it is.
Yeah, it really is a steep hill that you're climbing when you're looking at overcoming some of the things that you're saying internally. So, you know, any tool that we can bring to bear, we need to bring out the heavy guns to definitely make those changes. And I mean, your stats are bang on. That, you know, we act on a very, very small percentage of what we are consciously thinking, and a very, you know, an overwhelming percentage of what we subconsciously think. So if we think that we're consciously in control of what we're doing, that's just, you know, that's not, we think we are, but we're not. It's usually the subconscious beliefs that drive the you know, the actions, and that's what we're really talking about changing, is that subconscious chatter, and that's those subconscious beliefs, so that we can naturally move into action that gets us what we desire. So thank you for that. So let's move on to imagination. So this chapter, this represents one of the first times that we begin to see the blending of the six intellectual faculties. I don't know, Dave, maybe I'll get you to mute there. Your microphone is very high quality. Thanks, buddy. This this is really the first time that the Hill blends these six intellectual faculties, and the good thing about, you know, studying this material outside of simply just reading it is that, you know, if you don't have any knowledge of these intellectual faculties, you probably would completely miss this. Now, imagination is the workshop of the mind. I think we've all heard that. I think, you know, that was a quote by Thomas Edison, I believe, or Einstein. I think both of them had this this saying carved in their desk. You know, knowledge, imagination is more powerful than knowledge, and it really is the workshop of the mind. In fact, everything in the room that you're both sitting in, from the clothes you're wearing to the chair you're sitting on, was at one time only a thought in the mind of an individual. You know, it's hard for us to imagine that at one time there were actually no chairs or tables, but, you know, there weren't. And, you know, the piece of paper that you're writing on, if you have one in front of you, is the result of a combination of objects and processes that at one time just didn't exist. Let's use the paper as an example here. You know, the paper began as a tree, and then it was cut by a saw that first existed in somebody's mind. Then it was lifted by a crane that didn't exist until somebody imagined it. The finished product is transported by a truck to a factory full of machines and chemicals that didn't exist until somebody first imagined them. You see, everything in our awareness at one point never actually existed. Everything essentially begins in the workshop of the mind, in the imagination. You know, many people have actually had thoughts of doing had similar thoughts of doing similar things to other people. However, things can't be created based solely on thought. It's imperative that that thought be combined with action for creation to occur, for that process of creation to actually happen. Now, the creative imagination must be backed. It has to be backed by actions. Most reject their thoughts or ideas because they can't imagine, how to do the thing that they're thinking. Now, while imagination is the workshop of the mind, self-conditioning to take action on what we're thinking is an absolute necessity. Otherwise, it just won't happen. So let's discuss that a little bit. Now, Napoleon Hill says here that that action is imperative. In fact, he goes on to say that we should be self-conditioned to take action. So what does that really mean to everyone on the call here? Just maybe if you'd like to share a couple of words about what that means to you to be self-conditioned to take action.
Steve, it's David.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, self-conditioned to take action, it really symbolizes that we just can't be, like the thing is that we can think all we want. It's like I can read a book and obtain the knowledge, but that knowledge is like, because we used to have this idea, and some people still do, that knowledge is power, but then it came out as applied knowledge is power. So applied knowledge implies that we're taking in action. We're taking that knowledge and putting it into action. So that's actually, the action is like, to me, the completion of making the power work.
Right.
Because a thought is just a thought, and the action is like the completion. To me, it's completing the act. It's like a formula. It's like a compound formula, and that's the completion of that formula. Without it, it's not very effective. As a matter of fact, it's not effective at all.
Yeah, it's follow through really. It's conditioning yourself to follow through.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that for me, follow through is the biggest, and I think for all people. We follow through with things that we're passionate about, but the things that aren't so much fun, we need to get them done. You still have to follow through for there to be, for things to go around.
Yeah.
I think that the toughest thing for me has been cleaning my own place. I know I'm a woman. I should be just woo-woo about cleaning my own place, right? But I'm not. I've had somebody clean my house for the past 20 years because I lived in a big house, and then I downsized, and I now live in my condo, which is much smaller, much smaller than I have ever lived in, and I couldn't justify hiring somebody to clean my space anymore, and for me, that's been the toughest thing. Now, when it comes to going to the gym or going dancing or, whatever it may be, that it's not hard for me to follow through. But when it comes to doing something that I don't care to do, or something that I haven't had to do, like I said, for 20 years, it's really hard for me to even fathom that oh gosh, this is something I should be. The should-be's aren't always so easy to follow through with. So that's it for me. It's following through with something that I don't really necessarily like to do.
Every fiber of your being doesn't because you're conditioned not to.
Exactly.
That's your habit. Yeah, your habit is not to do that. And I mean, it's not a good thing and it's not a bad thing. It's just not something that you had to do or did. You know.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I think that I focus on very much. It's that it doesn't have to be bad or
Yeah.
good. It's just something that hasn't been done before. For example, for me in this case,
Yeah.
and you know, we don't have to. We don't have to. I'm sorry, I can't think of the word. We don't have to name it. It doesn't have. And I always say this: make it the word. Give it the word interesting. Interesting. I haven't had to do that before.
Hmm.
You know, it's not like, oh, that's bad. I haven't had to do that before.
Yeah.
But it's not good either. But it's interesting. I haven't
Yeah.
had to do that before. Okay, so I'm not used to having to do. I'm not used to thinking this way. When I see the dust things flying around, I've never seen so much dust as I have in Miami. I don't know what it is about this place. It's dust all over the place. And I blame it. I blame it on the ocean and the sand.
Yeah.
You know.
Sure it
So,
is.
yeah, of course. And maybe the dogs that I also own. I don't
Oh,
know.
it's got to
So,
be the dog too. Yeah. Yeah.
so for me, that's what it is. It's not giving it a bad or a good.
No.
It's just interesting.
Being aware, I think being aware too, you know, the question was what it means to you to be self-conditioned to take action. You know that that's not your conditioning. Your
Right.
conditioning is not to have to clean. That's your conditioning. So what we're really talking about is creating in yourself conditioning that allows you to take action. And that's really what you're talking about there. You're talking about not judging it as good or bad. It just is, and it's part of something that you're going to be doing now. In fact, you want to do it because you've made the conscious choice to do it. And that's really what we're talking about. I mean, the most successful people are the people who have trained themselves to do the things that other people don't like to do.
That's the key right there.
It's huge, and it's huge in the real estate industry. It's huge, you know. And really, I shouldn't even just you know, single out the real estate agent, the real estate itself. It's in every industry. You know, it's the people who, you know, it's easy to, like you said, go dancing or you know, go to the gym or things that you enjoy doing. It's the things you don't enjoy doing. Those are the things you need to self-condition yourself to take action on.
Yeah, and if I may say something there, it's not just the things that we don't like to do, but often things that we haven't done. So
Yep.
I don't know, because when I am done cleaning, woo-hoo, you know, I feel absolutely fantastic. And I have also started doing this because I love to work out. I'm a physical, like I need to work out and move my body. So
Yep.
I think of it as, oh, okay, I'm doing this right now and I'm listening to loud music like I would do when I'm working out or dancing. And I'm making it something that will become a routine, because routine is something else that will also cause action. If it's something that you're used to doing, whether you like it or not, it causes action because you're used to doing it.
Yep.
Which can also be the negative at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
When things aren't so good for us.
There's a lot of things we do that we know we shouldn't be doing, but we do them
Yeah.
because that's our conditioning. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a self-conditioned action. That's what that's what we're trying to create here. Well, thanks for sharing that, David. Son. So you see, what a lot of people do is, and this is, you know, we're still talking a little bit about this, why people do and don't do the things that they know that they should be doing. What people do is, rather than back their thoughts or ideas with action, they reject them by imagining all the reasons something can't be done. And we're talking about our dreams and you know, the things that we truly desire, those intuitive thoughts or ideas that we're gifted with. You know, they blend whatever it is they've imagined, like the idea of a better job or an increased income or a healthier body, with their intellectual faculty of reason. And that reason washes away the idea. It prohibits them from taking the actions necessary for creation to occur. So people will often use their, their reason and their imagination, this blending of these two intellectual faculties. They'll use them together, and it's typically not in the best way. They'll use them to imagine all the reasons why something can't be done. I would suggest that most people they've been programmed to allow their previous results to control their purpose, really. And oftentimes, whatever it is that people desire most, like a bigger home or a better job or more money, those things are so unfamiliar or far removed from their current results and their current conditioning that they'll reject those ideas in exchange for their familiar or current results, the thing that they're really comfortable with, regardless of whether they like them or not. So they're essentially allowing their current results to control their purpose. So I hope that, in just talking to you guys, I know that this makes sense to you. But it's good to talk about this stuff and to remind yourself that, that we need to really take responsibility for this. We need to be very present to what we are comfortable doing and not comfortable doing, and when we're rejecting things that we think we can't do. At this point, I'd like to move on and learn a little bit more about this creative imagination that we all have, and how we can work with it and get the results that we truly desire. So if you pop over to page 77, Hill talks about their creative imagination, and this is the part that we really want to focus on. And it says here about creative imagination: through the faculty of creative imagination, the finite human mind has direct communication with infinite intelligence. It's this faculty through which hunches and inspirations are received. It's by this faculty that all basic or new ideas are handed over to humanity. It's through this faculty that thought vibrations from the minds of others are received. It's through this faculty that one individual may tune in or communicate with the subconscious minds of others. And I think dogs do this. This is the major way that dogs communicate with us, or at least read us. The creative imagination works automatically in the manner described in subsequent pages. This faculty functions only when the conscious mind is vibrating at an exceedingly rapid rate. For example, when the conscious mind is stimulated through the emotion of a strong desire. The creative faculty becomes more alert, more receptive to vibrations from the sources mentioned, in proportion to its development through use. This statement is significant. Ponder over it before passing on. Now, he states clearly here that we can develop this faculty through use, not unlike going to a gym. I like to call these faculties your mental muscles, and they really can be developed just as biceps can be developed by doing curls in the gym. You do them, the only way you get results is through repetition. So the more you work out, the stronger you become. So let's discuss this a little bit. What does this mean? How can you use your imagination in order to strengthen it? Any suggestions on that? Any ideas? In what way can you use your imagination to strengthen it?
Steve, it's David. I think that. Oh, Sam, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I get my time.
Okay. Sorry. I think that one of the ways that we can do it is by creating an intention to tap into what I refer to it as the source. The source, the infinite knowledge or the infinite intelligence, like I call it the source. And it's like I think is by creating that intention every day that we're going to look at a situation, and a situation that we may not know much about, and we're going to put that intention in our mind to visualize, okay, the result that we want to accomplish from it. And so, like, I think it's all part of setting that intention, and that's going to activate that sort of that part of our brain. And the thing is, like, if we don't have that intention, I think that it's just, you know, it's just going to happen inconsistently and sporadically. So I think that by creating an intention to do it on a daily basis, and then once we start on a daily basis, is to break it down even to smaller increments by doing it several times a day, and to the point that we're constantly interrupting any other pattern, so that we're going to have that in active mode as much as possible.
Yeah, you're focusing on the object of your desire. You're holding that vision in your, you know, in your imagination, and allowing, you know, thoughts to surround that vision. That's perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Son, did you have something?
Yeah, well, I agree with obviously what both of you are saying there, and I think that visualizing again and again. I'm a visual person, so making a vision board, I believe in 100%.
Yeah.
Picturing it every day, even if it's something that just would not, you know, you can't fathom it really, but if you see it and dreaming about it, and you know, there's something to be said for when kids are dreaming and daydreaming, and my daughter was or is much more introverted than my son, and when they were kids, there were people that were always saying, oh, you know, your son is, well, family members that I don't agree with, were saying that my son was, oh, you know, he was always doing, he was active and so on, and my daughter would just, you know, kind of sit there and look out over the water, or read a book, and then she could just sit there and with a paper and pen, and she would write a lot, but she would be daydreaming. And her mind is so creative, and she is a go-getter now. She's 20 years old, and boy, when she puts her mind to something, she goes for it. So I think there's something to be said for daydreaming. If you don't have any daydreaming in your life, if you don't have any, you know, you have to have some dreams, because if you don't have dreams, you don't have any aspirations, and if you don't have aspirations, you're going nowhere.
Yeah.
So imagination and using that in your daydreaming, and then putting that into a visual thing, like a vision board,
yeah,
I think is to using my imagination to strengthen it.
Yeah, I think, you know, vision boards right at the top of my list as well. You know, pictures posted, strategic places, things that get you thinking about that. And you know, you touched on something there. You know, you can have you know, the $6 million yacht up on your vision board, and it might, you know, and if you really, you know, want to do this and look around at your current you know, your current situation, that might seem like it's so far out of your realm of possibility that, you know, you kind of, you know, people, you know, without the same knowledge that you do, will laugh at that and go, you know, you got to be kidding me. But what you're really doing is, but by posting that on the board and visualizing it, and as you said, David, you know, holding that image, what you're doing is you're raising yourself to, you know, up the vibrational scale, so that you're moving towards that, and that's really what we're looking to do. Vibrationally move towards the things that we're, you know, that we desire. And the further up that vibrational scale you move, the more things that come into play that are put in your path to allow you to reach that thing, that, you know, that object of your desire. So having it on that vision board is critical. If you don't have a vision board, I would suggest that you get one right away. And that's huge. So thank you both for sharing that. I'd like to interject that journaling and writing causes the formation of those mental pictures as well. So that needs to be part of your arsenal as well. And you know, with the vision board and the journaling, both cause you to form those mental pictures, but also meditation, relaxation, and visualizing those things in that state, I think that's very important as well.
Can I share something?
Sure can.
Time for me to share something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I've been dealing with some really, really, really bad health problems this summer, and was actually really scared for the first time in my life. And I do everything with naturopathic medicine. I don't really go to a Western medicine. For me is poison.
Yeah.
So for the most part, certainly there are times when you have to do what you have to do, but
yeah.
But in any event, so I was in Europe for a couple of months this summer, and went to see a holistic and naturopathic doctor. And I have seen many over the years, but this man did something that I've never experienced this with a naturopathic doctor. I guess he would use some form of Reiki, maybe, or something. He would hold his hands above my body and told me things that were really scary to me, that this man would know these things and would touch on things that were so clear that I knew about, that he did not know. There's no way that he could have known this. In any event, he was showing me how to do this. He said, it's not witchcraft. It's not, it's not like only some people have certain talents or gifts like this. Anybody can do this, he said, and I'm going to teach you how to heal yourself. And I get goosebumps when I think about this, because it was just so amazing. So when I came back here to the U.S., I was so sad that I didn't have him with me by my side, because I thought, I need him.
Yeah.
But I remembered what he had taught me, and he had taught me to hold my hands and visualize my organs and where I was sick. And I did that for weeks, visualizing, and I was praying, because that's my way of dealing with things.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of meditation. Every morning I spent time meditating and doing this healing, visualizing my organs being healthy and 100%. I also put a big picture of organs on my vision board. And anybody that saw it were like, what
the heck is going on?
But I need healthy organs.
Yeah.
All my organs need to be healthy. And I visualized this every day, and I did this every morning, and I was sending these vibrations into my body, visualizing this every morning. And I'm going to tell you, I have not seen a doctor since I got back from Sweden. I have not gone to see anybody. This is what I've been doing. And, of course, I've been eating healthy and resting and so on. But it's the power of meditation and the picturing healthy organs is just incredible. So
all done in your imagination.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
all done. It's critically powerful.
Yes.
That's a great story. I've never heard of anyone with organs on their vision board, by the way. That's a new one for me. But you know what? It's fantastic. What a great story. Yeah. That is a great story. So you're completely healthy now, and
yeah, I would say 95%. I'm still,
yeah.
There's still.
Yeah. We have a ton in common, by the way. Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said there. Western medicine to me is a scary thing. I mean, there's uses for it in certain circumstances, but in general, don't get me started. So, yeah. Well, thank you for that story. Yeah. So let's proceed here, because I think David, you want to be off the call at 9. Eh? So I think we should be able to get all this done in the 15 minutes or so that we have left here. So let's so in the section, let's get back to creative imagination here. In the section about creative imagination, he says it's the faculty through which hunches and inspirations are received. So let's look at what Hill is really talking about here. Well, this is where imagination begins to blend itself with the intellectual faculty of intuition. We become intuitively aware of things and new ideas when we hold an image in our imagination. And this is what we're talking about, David, about holding that image. Things start to come to you when you hold that image because you're moving towards it on a vibrational scale, and images and ideas around that naturally come to you. When we hold an image in our imagination for a length of time, we get inspired. And the word inspiration is derived from the Latin word, I don't know how to pronounce it, but inspire, I think, which means in spirit, or in the direct communication with God. In spirit is what it means to be inspired. When one is inspired, they're in communication with God through their intuition. Dr. Wayne Dyer says that if Dr. Wayne Dyer says that if prayer is when we talk to when prayer is if prayer is when we talk to God, intuition is when God speaks to us. I love that quote. It's through this creative imagination that we use the other creative faculty of intuition. So the blending of these two faculties, imagination and intuition, is the expression of the God-like part of us. We're said to be made in the image of God. It's through this intellectual faculty of imagination that we have the ability to co-create with this creative power. Now, it's all energy. A student of science would refer to this power as energy, while a student of theology would refer to it as God. Everyone has their own beliefs around this, but ultimately, what we're seeing is the coming together of religion and science once again. It started off together, it broke apart, and now it's starting to come back together. It's just through the study of the scientific side of all of these things that we're talking about, the law of vibration, quantum physics. So it's working with this power that allows us to create or co-create whatever it is that we truly want in our lives. So it's important that we learn how to tap into this imagination, into our imagination, by way of our intuition, or more simply put, become intuitively aware. Become more intuitively aware. Now, we first become intuitively aware of what we desire by way of our intuition, and then we can blend that intuitive desire with imagination. Next, we can back this by action. So here's a little story about how this might have played out. So I'm going to get you to use your imaginations here. I need you to all imagine with me for a minute that we're back in the days of the caveman. All right. Now it's been a long day of hunting and gathering, and we're now back in our cave, and we're seated around a nice warm fire. Now, while we're sitting around the fire, one of the cave people, we'll call him Ugg, he starts to really notice how uncomfortable the ground is. It's lumpy, it's rocky, there's a lot of pebbles and jagged ground, and suddenly this cave person, Ugg, becomes intuitively aware that he has a desire for something more comfortable. Now, as the desire lingers in his consciousness, and he really becomes aware of this desire his imagination really begins to kick in. He starts to build images in his mind of what it would be like to be more comfortable. Maybe not have pebbles jabbing him in the bottom. At some point, he looks around the cave and he sees a log or a stump sitting in the corner. So he drags that stump closer to the fire, and then he starts to look around for some leaves, some grass, maybe some moss, and other similar materials that he piles on the stump to create what very well could have been the first chair, the first comfortable chair. See, Ugg becomes consciously aware through intuition that there must be a better way. He intuitively became aware of that desire, and then it was his imagination that got triggered, and then Ugg begins to get creative. That stump may have been there for years, and suddenly he's aware of it. He's aware of it as a mechanism or a tool to act on his intuitive hunch. And he got a hunch. So he got a hunch through intuition that there might be something better. That's really what inspiration is. You know, he was inspired and able to look through that inspiration, and then he tapped into his imagination in order to make it better. So you see, we receive hunches through our intuition that there must be something better. This really translates into inspiration, and the inspiration triggers our imagination, and our imagination then inspires us to be creative. So one last thing on imagination and intuition. Let's look at one of the most common mistakes that we make when using our imagination and intuition. The most common mistake we make when we use our intuition and imagination is questioning its use or doubting it. Now, as soon as we receive the intuitive idea and begin to build a positive picture with our imagination, we then tap into our intellectual faculty of reason, as we pointed out before, and we allow our current results. We take a look around ourselves, and is that in keeping with what we've got so far, what we've done up till now? So we look at our current results, and we erase that intuitive message we received, right along with the images that we began to build from it. We begin to question whether the idea was right or wrong. Is it good or bad? You know, should I or shouldn't I do it? You know, we're really creating ambivalence. We talked a lot about definiteness of purpose. Well, what we're creating when we do that is we're creating ambivalence. So we're moving away from that definiteness of purpose, that white-hot beam on the horizon that we're walking towards. So as we said before, for every single question, an answer already exists. So for better answers, we need to start asking better questions. So instead of asking whether the idea was right or wrong, is it good or bad, should I or shouldn't I would encourage everybody to ask themselves this when they're gifted intuitively with a new idea. But before I share this with you, I want you to understand how important this question really is. This is a 3% club question. Members of this club are the 3% of the population that control 96% of the world's wealth. The question that I would encourage everyone to ask themselves is this: if I act on this idea, regardless of what my current circumstances are, right now in my life, will it move me in the direction of my dream? And if the answer is yes, then you move. You act. Now, I know you're probably saying, easier said than done there, my friend. And I get that. But here's the thing. The truth is that we would not be inspired by our creative source to do something if we could not actually do it. We've been given the idea intuitively. Now understand that the minute you get the picture, you're instantly connected. It already exists. Once again, thoughts are things. That's the first line in this book. Thoughts are things. If you can share your idea with someone, you already have it. We can share these images with one another, and I would suggest that you can't share something that you don't already have. So let's look at the bottom of page number 84, and we'll tie that paragraph into proper use of our imagination. So on the bottom of page 84, it says here, if you are one of those who believe that hard work and honesty alone will bring riches, perish the thought. It's not true. Riches, when they come in huge quantities, are never the result of hard work. Riches come, if they come at all, in response to definite demands based upon the application of definite principles and not by chance or luck. So he's really making it clear here that when riches come, they come in response to definite demands based on the application of definite principles. In this book, Hill is delivering the definite principles that we can apply to the definite demands. So the how-to and everything else we need is right here in front of us. Our job now is to clearly create our own specific definite demands. You see, we already have the principles, and now all we need to do is apply our definite demands to those principles. It's actually pretty simple, but it's not always easy. And, you know, the next webinar, and I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but in the next program or the continuation of this program, I'll be, and it starts after this, it's going to start shortly after this webinar. We begin to study the principles and processes behind all of this. And this is part of a program that I teach called Goal Achiever. And in this program, I'll talk a lot more about the topic of definite demands and definite principles. And we really begin to make a study of these intellectual faculties that we all have and how they can be applied to these principles. And we really start to study an in-depth study of the laws that govern the way that we think and behave, and how those laws can be applied to these principles as well. Okay, so that's all that I have for you tonight. So I think what we'll do is a quick review of the evening, just to refresh, you know, sort of line everything up in the files of our minds, and then we'll assign the fun work for next week, and we call it fun work, not homework, son. And for next week, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Is that all right?
Yeah, great.
All right. So excellent. So tonight we discussed the chapter on autosuggestion, and we started off with clearly defining what autosuggestion is and how it works, and then we talked about how we can work with it and how you can use it to improve your results. After that, we moved into the chapter on imagination, where we spoke a little bit about the blending of the intellectual faculties, and then we discussed the combination of imagination and action. And this in this chapter, we focused mainly on creative imagination, but more specifically, we discussed how the creative imagination can be effectively blended with your intellectual faculty of intuition. And finally, we ended the evening by discussing the most common mistakes that people make using their imagination. And that was our evening. Seems a little bit simple when you review it like that, but there's a lot of information there. And now we'll talk a little bit about the fun work. So for next week, I'd like you to read the chapter on decision, which is a huge chapter. You know, I joked the last time I did this webinar, I think, David, you were on it, I said that every single chapter that we're reading here is my favorite chapter. And, you know, I'm not really lying. I think, you know, all the chapters that we've decided to study as part of this book are huge. You know, the significance of information that you can pull out of these chapters is just really, you know, beyond really any book that I've read. But we'll get you to read the chapter on decision for next week, and you're going to be skipping over the chapter on organized planning. I mentioned this at the start of the seminar, son, that, you know, I encourage everybody to read the entire book. But for the purposes of the webinar, you're not going to be expected to pass any tests on that chapter on organized planning. So you can feel free to skip over it. These chapters stand out on their own individually, so it's not like you know, you're going to be missing any of the plot line. You'll also want to read. You're also going to want to read the chapter on persistence, and that's also a critical chapter in your personal development reading. So please remember to support yourself and other people on this webinar by posting on our Facebook page, the Facebook page that I set up. And these are things like your comments and answers to some of the questions, any aha moments that you have or discoveries that you make, as well as any questions that come up for you while you're completing your homework, the work in your workbook, or reading the chapters. So complete all of your fun work assignments in this week's workbook by the next session, which is next Monday night, and at 7:30. And once again, if you haven't done so already, you can email me what you would like to discover, uncover, or learn from this course, and you can send that to my email, which is steve.w.lundy@gmail.com. And really, the feedback is there to, I'm asking for that feedback so that I can continue to improve the content in this webinar and deal specifically with some of the things that people are looking to, to pull out of this webinar. And that's about it. So before we complete this week, are there any questions or comments? Anyone like to say anything or share?
Steve, it's David. I'd just like to say that going over these two things that we did tonight, these two chapters we did tonight, is a real key to understanding how important the internal process is, and I believe trying to connect to understanding how that process gets started is like an impulse to an energy, and I think that it's, like you said, like every time you read one of these chapters, it's hard not to say that they're all your favorites.
Yeah.
And I came to understand every time you kept saying that, okay, this one's my favorite. I'm thinking, well, which one is his favorite? I'm thinking, they're all so powerful. The thing is, okay, like each one of them is life impacting, and the thing is, and then you read them and reread them and reread them, and the thing is, okay, and you never stop learning. It's just amazing. So,
I read this book every time I do this webinar. At least I read the chapters that we're studying, and I'd say I've done this webinar maybe 20 times, and I've said this before. Every time I read the book for this webinar, I pull something completely different out of it each time. That's how deep and vast the information is in here. And it happens that way because I'm different than the last time I read it. I've grown. I've had other experiences. So it really is a book that you can continue to read for the rest of your life. And each time you do, you're going to pull something significant out of it. And that's just from my experience.
absolutely true. It's been that way for me. I know that just reading it again, it's like aha moments. I think the thing is, every paragraph is an aha moment.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So, son, I hope you enjoyed this. Any comments?
Very much. Well, I just, and we'll talk, but I really enjoy this very, very much, and thank you for sharing, David. I appreciate that as well. So I really enjoy this, and I'm really excited about this, so I hope I can, stay with this and continue.
Absolutely. Well, you're more than welcome to continue to get on these calls for sure, and I value your opinion as I do yours, David, and your feedback and sharing. So, on that note, I will sign this off and have a very powerful week, and I'll send out the workbook for next week, so you can expect that tonight. And have a powerful week, everyone.
Thank you very much. Nice meeting you, son. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.